This week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast is brought to you by Warwickshire-based Purity Brewing Company. You recognise them for such fabulous premium amber ale such as UBU and some gorgeous little numbers such as Mad Goose. Purity Brewing Company have got a list of awards longer than your arm. Check them out and give them a taste. You absolutely must do it. Hi everybody, and thanks for tuning in once again to the I'll Try That podcast, the beer news and reviews podcast. This week we are sampling Warwickshire-based Purity Brewing Company and their plethora of fantastic drops for you to get your teeth into. There's a real range there. They're all absolutely excellent. We're trying to figure out which is more lovely than the last, but we'll be covering UBU, their premium amber, Mad Goose, their their premium pale ale, I should say, Lawless, and their session IPA as well. But first of all, Joe, we've got a hot topic for us.
I have, and the hot topic this week is another kind of spotlight on another collaboration that Toast are doing. Now, those avid listeners will have listened back a few episodes ago that we did and covered Toast in quite a lot of detail. But, Toast is at it again. Their new series of their new beer, it's a new collaboration beer with Rebel Kitchen, which is a alternative dairy, so it's a plant-based dairy company, and they're a plant-based brand, Rebel Kitchen, who make, alternatives to milk, dairy products and the like, getting a lot of popularity here in the UK. But so they've come together in their in Toast's fifth Rise Up series beer, and this is a oat pale ale. Now, as you would imagine, Barbara, being Toast, this is obviously made with surplus fresh bread, but also as well, it's using surplus organic oats that otherwise would have been wasted. Again, really kind of building on, this is Toast proposition, food waste, and making that into beer. So this is part of Toast's, kind of fifth collaboration, as I said, in that kind of Rise Up series, but it's specifically with other B Corps. So, it's raising that awareness about the environmental impact of, environmental impact of food and the benefits of supporting better, healthier ways of producing it.
Yeah, and those B Corps are those ones that are certified as well, that have put in an equally admirable amount of work into that sustainability project as well. Interesting that they're definitely not resting on their laurels. There's as you were rightly describing it, it's the next one in the saga of challenges, for want of a better word, that they're taking on. Oats are an interesting option as well. I only know really that oats are nutritionally one of the best things out there as well. So, excellent source of complex carbohydrates. And I hear somewhere also that oats are an antidepressant.
Oh.
So, I imagine that's true. Whoever told it to me might have just been trying to flog me a bag of oats. But I imagine I normally get quite happy after a couple of beers anyway. But there must be a bit of a double whammy if it's a beer brewed with leftover oats.
So, this beer basically sounds like it's not oats so simple.
Nice. I think we could. You've completely blindsided me there with an excellent oat joke. I haven't even been able to prepare any of my porridge material. I'm at a loss here.
I'll give you a couple of moments to think about that while I read out a quote from Louisa Zayan, who's Toast co-founder and chief operating officer, who's saying that collaborating with Rebel Kitchen, who are also on their regenerative journey with their range of plant-based milks, has been a brilliant way for us to learn more and share that with others over a delicious beer. So it really does feel like, with this series, they're not just, just doing this for PR's sake, but actually trying to understand other B Corps, kind of areas and lanes, basically. So Rebel Kitchen, as you said, in that plant-based milks area, Toast in their own, but coming together, sharing the knowledge, sharing the information, trying to build a better world through business.
That makes a lot of sense. They're obviously going to be closely aligned, and they know they're going to sort of be building towards. They've got a common goal there, haven't they? So of course, collaboration makes a lot of sense, and it also not only is doing a bit of good, but also it means more different, diverse beers for us to try. So absolutely going to be no complaints about that.
We're definitely not going to complain about that. So That's a bit of a quick, hot topic for us today. We are now, as you said, Barbara, going to talk a bit more about Purity Brewing. Now, Purity Brewing is a company that's been only on my radar actually very recently, because I think you suggested, Barbs, that we do this in an upcoming episode. So obviously I had to get my, as a company that I had never heard of before, I thought I should get really into, who they are, why haven't they been on my radar? And actually I've got no answers to that. They've been around since 2005. They have so many award-winning beers. Every single year since 2006, they've won a plethora of different awards accolades, for their different beers. It's outrageous the amount of awards they've won for their beers.
Yeah, I can't give you a hard time for that, Joe, because to be honest, equally, I've been going, there just happens to be my local boozer around the corner is a really excellent watering hole here in Cheltenham, and I've been going in there for a while, and I've been just drinking Mad Goose, which is the premium pale. Absolutely fell in love with it, and then I think it was on the basis of that I said we should have a look at Purity, and now I'm just having my eyes opened to all these other beers, which it's hard to pick one. It's now hard to pick your favourite, even though I was pretty much zoned in on Mad Goose. Mad Goose has it's been so popular with me. It's now I don't know what it means, but it's in my vernacular. It's been added to my dictionary of. I think it's normally if I see something, if I quite like my sport, I'll watch rugby. If I see a ridiculous offload, I go, oh mate, that is some Mad Goose. Still don't know what it means, but I'm hoping it catches on. You heard it here first, everyone.
That's it. That's a Matt Barber I'll Try That podcast exclusive saying.
Well, let me get the copyright sorted out first, and then we'll take it from there. Although I probably owe it to Purity anyway. Yeah,
exactly. I think they probably have a TM somewhere on their label. But yeah, I mean, the Mad Goose is the first beer that I tried at Purity's. Having started, I did an order, that came hot off the press from fresh from the Warwickshire brewery itself, and I'd originally ordered only just two beers. Two bottles, and yet they sent me 2 cases of bottles. So I have to feel like that is them just saying, "Oh, this is this guy Joe. He runs this podcast. It's getting a lot of traction." No, I just think that was an honest mistake on the brewery's packing side, and I can say I'm all the happier for it, because I have I've sampled a lot of Mad Goose over the last couple of months because of that positive error, and I can say that safely it is very palatable pale ale.
Yeah. It's. I think I'm pretty happy with the fiction that they just wanted to get in with a heavyweight podcast like us. So yeah, let's not knock that. But what is it you're drinking at the moment there, Joe?
So, I can talk at length about Mad Goose, when you want to talk about that, Barbara. I know you have that a bit later on.
Yeah.
But for right now, I am drinking Lawless Unfiltered Lager by Purity.
Oh, I love an unfiltered.
So this lager is, I'm going to read some copy from the can because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, Lawless Unfiltered Lager. Lawless is our maverick beer named after our farmyard fiend, Bruno the Goat. Just like our lager, he is a law unto himself, full of character with a sharp kick.
Nice. I think that's a bit of a theme. They've got it for UBU is after a faithful canine friend, as they describe themselves, Tess. And I know I would have to recheck it, but the Mad Goose is I think the guys used to cycle past a farm, and I think if you went within half a mile of this goose, it would be onto you. I think everyone's got a story of a goose that's like that. But they've there's a bit of a theme developing there. But they've got a bit of an interesting history, I think, Purity. And I mean, listeners can themselves go and check it out on their website with their timeline that takes them sort of through the highlights of their journey over the last 16 years. And there's quite a lot to read and digest there, but they do seem just like a very honest, genuine couple of fellas who like beer and are just sort of typical guys, really, which is quite heartwarming to see. It reaffirms my my sort of deeply hidden feeling that one day I might run away and start my own brewery. I hope they realise that they're inspiring me as well as just providing me with nice beer.
It is. It's a very aspirational. I mean, we've talked about this actually on the podcast before. It's a very achievable aspiration, isn't it? Starting a brewery. That's why we're seeing such a boom right now with, so many new breweries starting out. I mean, I think there was a stat I'll have to going to claw back through to get the exact one, but it went from basically had about 1,500 breweries here in the UK, I think in the mid 2000s, to when we now have about 13,000. So it's growing exponentially. And maybe it raises the question of, where's is there a bubble in the brewing world right now, with these smaller companies? I mean, this is definitely an independent owned brewery. Owned by, these two guys, Paul Hazley and James Minkin. They started this out in 2005. I've been trying to dig into what was their past history before, that 2005 starting point. Barbara, you mentioned that you might have thought they had some sort of rugby connection. Maybe they were rugby players themselves or something like that. And I'll let you fact check that while I keep going, because, you can really start to see that, that when they've kind of grown from 2005 through to where we are right now, rugby has been a consistent theme, or has at least shown a presence within Purity. So in 2015, they actually became the official partner of Wasps Rugby and the Ricoh Arena as part of, to become their official cask ale partner. They're also as well joining the Coventry Rugby family of partners as official cask beer. So again, they are just showing that they know where they want to put their product. They know who likes their product. Rugby obviously has some sort of, close link to their heart, because, to become a partner of these rugby clubs is no easy feat. I'm sure there's a lot of breweries out there that would love to be an official beer partner of a brewery. So, it's heartwarming to see, or good to see that they persisted, and that's something they really wanted to have as part of their brand.
Yeah, it's just dawned on me, and I possibly should have realised this before. And you mentioned that I think it's been a while that I have been drinking Mad Goose, albeit just the Mad Goose, as I mentioned earlier on. But as someone who watches a bit of rugby myself, I think it's been a long time that I'm not a Wasps fan, but I'm sure I've seen them playing rugby enough times. And it's only just in recently sort of I've had that light bulb moment of, Purity is on their shirts and that sort of thing. I quite like that. I feel like there's something a little bit wholesome. I think a lot of the top flight rugby teams in the UK have a local brewer on them. I suppose it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? It's almost a marriage made in heaven of going to the rugby and having a bit of a beer. Although the other light bulb moment I just had is I noticed also when you look through a lot of the literature from Purity is it's a focus on the word pure comes up a lot and the word quality comes up a lot, and I think I've just figured out where they got the name Purity from. Wow, someone else give me an award, but
you are firing on all cylinders right now,
check
Barbara.
me out. Well, the other thing I'd read about them is I think that the guys had I ought to just double check, and I think it was Kings Norton rugby football club that they first mentioned, but I think also they had a bit of a passion for cycling, and particularly the Mad Goose that I've said before that I quite like. It does, particularly I'm looking outside, we've got a sunny day today. I think going on a bit of a cycle ride through Warwickshire with the occasional stop for a pint of Mad Goose, nothing could be better.
Yeah, no, it does go down smooth. I mean, I'm just talking a bit more about Lawless lager. This is quite a full charactered lager. This isn't a light, an American light lager. This has actually got a lot of flavour to it.
Is that because it's unfiltered, isn't it? So I imagine that probably gives it a bit of. I suppose it'd be what my dad would say is it puts hairs on your chest as opposed to the filtered lagers. I'm currently drinking, as I said, UBU, which is the premium amber, which is a lovely drop as well. It's kind of a classic amber, really. It's a bit maltier. And it's warmer. It's one of those ones we discussed on an episode recently. I wouldn't put it in the fridge all day. Possibly a little bit better suited for your winter evenings after maybe a dog walk, and then sat by the fire in preparation for a roast dinner. And actually, that's another thing I noticed about them is they actually put not quite tasting notes, but pairing notes. They're saying have this with some red meat, game, a bit of mature cheddar. I could see myself sitting down in some cheese with one of these, or some red meat. So it's a good hearty, but pure and tasty option. I have a bit of a soft spot for some of these malty ones in what sometimes feels like quite a world of hoppy options.
Is there something to note about Purity that all of their beers are vegan? they're suitable for vegans. They've really thought about, what's going into their beers and making sure it's as inclusive for everyone. And, certainly, this is a trend that we're starting to see a lot more with, breweries or, just outside of, even just outside of category as well, outside of the industry, that people are trying to make their products as inclusive as possible so everyone can enjoy what they have to offer. And let's face it, there's nothing about brewing that couldn't be vegan. You don't have animal byproducts really in the beers themselves. So actually it's quite interesting that, people are going out of their way to call out and make a thing to say we are vegan. You have this on their cans, you have this on, in their marketing, on their website to say that they are vegan as well. So I think that's just quite an interesting part because, really there's nothing about brewing,
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no prominent role for an animal-based product, and therefore that makes sense that they're able to do it. Doesn't compromise anything in terms of the taste profile of the beer when you actually sit down to have one. And so, that it probably needs lauding a little bit more. But until you said it, I'd had no idea that they were all vegan. So yeah, you can only lend your voice to support that. Keep them vegan. Let everyone keep drinking them and enjoying them.
So we're talking about obviously Purity been around since 2005, obviously growing quite steadily, very much a heartland of the Warwickshire, Birmingham areas, where they hail from. They definitely see their kind of core cornerstone of markets of where they're putting their beers. And you in Cheltenham, Barbara, have, very, very familiar with this as well. It hasn't really expanded so much into the bottom part of the UK. I don't know if it's made its way further north. But one thing that is very notable is their new managing director, who was appointed, and it was announced on April the 21st of this year, 2021. Now, those of you who might be, kind of following the beer industry, the more corporate side of the beer industry, who's who in the industry and who's moving around, might recognize the name of Andy Maddock. Now, Andy Maddock, was through and through, had a very flourishing career with Heineken before he took this job with Purity Brewing. So you have to wonder, this is obviously a very tactical decision to bring on someone like Andy, who's got a lot of industry knowledge and, a lot of work and an understanding of how to make a very large, organization successful like Heineken. How is that going to adapt to, a much smaller organization, independently owned like that scale that Purity are? And I have to just think that, this is only going to do wonders for them, just because Andy will have a lot of connections, within the cellars, the retail market, getting him into new bars, listings in new pubs. That's exactly what Purity needs to be doing, even if it's not like, they haven't as of right now got an international, strategy and plan, in place, but they can really focus on really dominating and growing their presence here in the regional market in the UK.
So this is the moment I've been waiting for all week. I am now going to have a Mad Goose. I think some people have maybe said I'm a little bit weirdly obsessed with it. I almost can't quite put my finger on it, but this one just has a bit of X factor for me. Lovely, zesty, freshish, bit of bite, classic, as they describe themselves, premium pale. And it's, as I said, it's just got an X factor for me. I feel like this is the one that really established Purity. There may be some more hardcore fans out there who will tell me otherwise. I know Lawless is a lovely drop, and actually I know that I realise that they're also doing a cider these days, but I feel that's got to be off limits for the I'll Try That podcast. And you've only to look at this list of awards that Purity have won to see that it is pretty much everything they do, everything they touch seems to turn to gold, for want of a better phrase. But Mad Goose is just a lovely drop.
Yeah, I enjoyed the plethora of Mad Goose bottles that I've been sipping on over the last couple of months. And I just feel as for a pale ale, it definitely hits that more traditional pale ale kind of category. It's very smooth. It comes in bottables to start off with. You can't get it in cans. The design of it looks very, quite interesting. It's this kind of caricature of a goose kind of jumping through the can, through the label itself. But I think what I'm getting across is like Purity, they are a very good, like safe bet, they have very nice beers. And that's what I've been getting across, from even their unfiltered lager, was very kind of palatable, had a very interesting character as they explain, but at the same time, it's nothing kind of like, oh, this is a really interesting new lager. However, I am trying their session IPA as well. And I have to say, as session IPAs go, this has kind of knocked me for six in a good way. This is something I was not expecting from Purity, given that background that what I've tasted to date from Purity has been very nice. It's been really good quality, but it's nothing that's unsurprising in the beer category. Their session IPA is very palatable.
Oh, wow, okay.
This is giving me a lot of flavor coming in right now with this IPA. Again, it's an IPA, so it's got that kind of, harder hit. It's actually only a 4.5%, which is, as a session IPA goes, that's kind of on what you'd expect.
Oh, I was almost going to say I thought that might be a little bit pokey, but I have had a couple of people say they've tried the session IPA and after they've had a session IPA, they want another one. And there isn't much let up with that.
No, exactly. I mean, I think that's the lane that session IPAs can give, is the fact that they are going to be incredibly palatable in that they're going to have a lot of flavor to them. They're not going to be knocking your socks off at the 7% or whatever. But at the same time, it's going to give you a lot of wiggle room, or room for error, I like to call it. You can have a couple and feel like, okay, I can just slow down now. It's fine. But I like this as well, that the design itself is quite fascinating. It's very different to the rest of the Purity range.
Is that almost like a butterfly pattern?
Almost butterflies, like different coloured butterfly. Well, it's just, I think they're just little, I actually don't know what they are. They look like pearl looking things, but they do make up that. But basically, the design is in collaboration with the Birmingham School of Art.
Cool.
So they've done a collaboration here with people who are, who are making this kind of design size. This is why the design itself looks very different to the rest of the Purity range. And I think that's nice. For something that just tastes quite different to the rest of the Purity range, they've gone with a design that looks quite different and stands it out from the rest of the range.
They're branching out there. I often just see the bottles on the shelf for Purity, and there's it's these a bottle shape, obviously, but designs sort of red, black, and white for most of them. Whereas this is going a little bit more colourful, and I think you're only casting an eye over it before you're sort of in a session IPA mood. I'm saying that's a question rather than a statement.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right. But, just to close up on the session IPA, it has actually won 4 international beer awards. Again, going on with this Purity's, award-winning hot streak. This is definitely a beer which I will say people should try. And again, it's vegan and gluten-free, so even more inclusive than the last beers.
They are ticking a lot of boxes. Purity, it's got to be said.
And just before we kind of close up on Purity, we're talking a bit more, as we like to do as much as possible with these breweries, about their sustainability practices. And they definitely they've got this whole section on their website called Pure Eco. And they say that they take their responsibility to the environment and local community very seriously. They've made huge strides for a small company, but we're determined to continue making a difference. And, they talk about how their brewing process, they're using a lot of, retaining heat, they're not letting a lot of steam, they're doing steam recapture. They're using some of the grain, they're reusing grain to feed longhorn cattle, in the local community as well.
Oh, cool.
So everything, looking after the wetland systems, again, very much talking around that mad goose, kind of language, I suppose. So I think, overall, we're looking at the Purity Brewing as being want for a better word, some good eggs.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what they're doing. And power to them for that.
Absolutely. So just closing on their numbers, Instagram, they have their 10K followers.
Cool. Yeah, good.
And Twitter, they have 19K followers. So obviously people are much more interested in the daily news briefs that you can give out with Twitter.
I've been claiming to be a fan. I think they probably have to call that 19K and 1, because I'm going to go and check them out this afternoon, particularly knowing that they sent you slightly too much beer in error. I'm going to go and sign up to follow them.
Absolutely. I mean, I hope more people go and do that just to kind of test out their testing system. But I think just to close on it, definitely worth. I think Barbara, you've introduced me to Purity, so thank you for that. I'm definitely a convert into the Purity world. Definitely can say I've tried that, and you could definitely. I would recommend other people to go and try some of Purity's beers. The Sibber Green Business of the Year 2020, and their award-winning beers. So thanks, Purity.
Thank you, Purity, indeed.
And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe, Rich,
Barbara,
and Simo.
Goodbye. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter, I'll try that podcast.com.
And watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.